Now let's take a more detailed look at the comparison conditions. If you remember, we were in the select statement and we went to the where clause and into the chapter 7 conditions chapter. And we looked at comparison, logical, null, and between. Let's look at comparison conditions. All comparison conditions are telling you is really that you're trying to compare one thing to another. So you're saying, is something equal to something? Is it not equal to something? Is something greater than, less than, greater than or equal, less than or equal to? And there are some special functions called any, some, and all. Well, they're not really functions, they're conditional comparisons. Let's scroll down through the details just so we can see the syntax diagrams in pictures. Expression, any one of these conditions. Expression means you're comparing two things. You can also bracket the expression, and you can have multiple bracket expressions which compare multiple values from a subquery. But once again, subqueries are not included in this course and will be in the next course. So we're not going to go into detail there, but all we need to know here is that we can compare two things using a condition that gets applied in a where clause that will tell us which data gets returned. And we'll get into the detail of that in a minute. And let's go down to group comparison conditions quickly. These are special group comparisons that say any, some, all. Anything in a list, some in a list, and all in a list. We'll get to the details of that in a later movie in this chapter. There's one more thing that we need to look at, and that's pattern matching. A pattern match in programming terms is where you take an expression and you try to match that with a generalized expression with something called a wildcard character in it. Like when you go into your computer in DOS and you type dir asterisk dot asterisk, it's going to tell you all the files in that directory. Not that anybody uses DOS anymore, but essentially what it allows you to do is say where an expression is like something else. We will go into the details of that shortly in another movie in this chapter and show you exactly how it works. But essentially what you're doing is you're looking for a pattern in a last name. All a pattern match does says something like this, where last name contains like R pattern. This means anything. The first name starts with a capital letter R, regardless of whatever else is in the name. We'll get into the details of like later on in a later movie.